Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 15th day of October, 2019. Well, just a little bit of housekeeping here. I did yesterday's video around 2 o'clock my time, and that's really late for me. My day got all mixed up and started out that way, and so everything was sort of scattered. And I did it, and I kept checking it while it was uploading and processing. But I was watching Ari Melber's show, The Beat, on MSNBC, and I don't know what happened. I guess I thought I did it. Anyhow, when I got back from the walk this morning, I sat down to get ready for today's video, and I saw that I had not published it. So I'm so sorry. It's up now. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. So I don't know what happened. It was just one of those days. I wonder if it was for a lot of people. My husband was feeling a little scattered too. So maybe, it could have been the chemtrails. I don't know. I don't like those things. They're up there right now. They're spraying the skies right now. And it falls on my hair. It gums up my hair. My husband feels like it makes his hair feel like straw. It's just awful. And I wish they'd stop it. Just stop it. Or at least tell us why it's happening. Don't sit and say nothing or lie or whatever. That's usually what happens, isn't it? Well, today the moon's in self-sufficient Taurus in the 6th house, suggesting a focus on the health. Also, Uranus in the 6th house also suggests that something unexpected might come up. So, but realistically, when you're talking about health, it's not just physical. You're talking about whole mind, body, spirit. When you're talking about health here, it's a broader term, health, when they talk about the 6th house. So, and Uranus, things you have to expect there. Everything's unexpected with Uranus. So if something feels off to you today, then, you might pay attention and, if you can deal with it yourself, great. If not, then, consider calling somebody in, making an appointment or what have you. So Mars is still in Libra. So, again, in groups, you're going to want to let them decide if they want you as their leader instead of you just deciding that for them. Venus is in Scorpio, so is Mercury. So we're talking about intensity in our interactions and our relationships with others. So caution there. Black Moon Lilith is still in the 4th house. Also Pisces. So, 4th house, can talk about family and home and all of that. And I think that when you're talking about Black Moon Lilith, Lilith is the primal within. And she's somebody that doesn't she doesn't want to conform. She just wants to plow her own way and blame everybody else in the process. So there's a lot of things Lilith has to rise above, and that's the whole point of it. That it's the erratic nature within at times, and with the opportunity and the ability to develop such power, such a sense of inner power with Lilith. So we just want to avoid self-defeating behavior within close relationships today. So in other words, own your own stuff. And just own it. It's not going to hurt you. Not going to kill you. Just I own it all. Let's go ahead and get started, though. Take our first card. And if you haven't been here before, welcome. But I take the 13th card each time. I'm going to do 3 cards, and then I may take a 4th, and then I'll do a rune from the Elder Futhark, and then we'll create a geomancy rune to finish. Well, here we have, I think an 8. Yes, an 8 of Pentacles. That's the first card. So practical issues, harmony, even progression, building something, building wealth, building experience, building security, because it's Pentacles. Well, I can't shuffle for crap today. So here we have the 4 of Swords. So we're talking about respite, bringing our thoughts to rest, allowing them to align a little bit better maybe. Let's do the last card. Taking the 13th card isn't always easy. Sometimes I drop them on the floor. Here we have the 5 of Wands. Playful struggle, basically. I think we're going to move these things around. So we have 8 and 4 is 12. So that's 3 and 5 again comes to 8. You know what? I'm going to leave them as they are. But I think I'm going to take a yod focus here, and we're going to have a focal point of this 3-card spread. A yod is 3 planets or planetary bodies in aspect with one another. It's like a pyramid, but a long, elongated pyramid. So you have 2. You have 2 of the planets that are in sextile with one another, and then they are in conjunct with this 3rd planet. And so they don't really understand the focal planet, but they shore up the focal planet's ability to manifest, basically. And so they get along with one another. There's an easy relationship with them. But I think we're going to have the 4 of Swords be our focal point. So let's start with it first. So we have the 4 of Swords. We see a man. He's not dead. He's just laying down. We see the 4th sword down below, bringing balance to polarity, basically. Inner balance, in other words. Between dark and light, or masculine, feminine, projective, receptive energies. Sometimes things get out of balance, and we just have to go within. We have to take a moment to rest. It's interesting if you take the numerology, and the reason I'm going to use the 8 and the 5 as the which may seem weird when you see them, but basically I want those to be in sextile with one another. So I want those to be the foundation for this. We have to always remember that we are spirit embodied, all right, in form. We are source energy. Basically focused into form. So basically the focal point should be spirit, right? So that's why I think I'm going to take the 4, and we'll make that the focal point. So we always have to return to our inner self, to the inner voice of spirit, right? To allow spirit to inform the process, and that's what we're going to say. We're going to say here. We've got 3 swords pointing downward into form. We can say that the direction is from spirit. You can see in the stained glass there, life is going on in the community. It almost looks broken, where part of it's stained glass and the rest of it's just, broken. But here, too much has come in and we need to realign and figure things out. Now, the things that we need to deal with, perhaps, we see the 8 of Pentacles. And here we have even progression. That's dealing with our physical manifestation in life, our home, our work, our legacy, our income, our family, all of that. Everything that's not emotions, intellect, and will, okay? But here, with the 5, we have what's called playful struggle. Nobody's really hurting anyone there. So maybe we can look at this as we have time for play and time for work. And maybe we have to balance that out. All right? And so we need to have spirit inform that process. We have to know when it's time to take care of business and when it's time to play. Now, that's something that yesterday we were dealing with Black Moon Lilith in the 5th house, where we're talking about trying to figure out, well, okay, am I going to play today or am I going to work? See, so that's the inner struggle. It's the struggle that we have between doing what we want and doing what we need to do. And so that's what we've got today. We need to allow for both, really, because if we're all work, then, we're out of balance. If we're all play, then nothing happens, right? We don't go to work. We don't, support our lives, basically. That's a new cup, and that's a weird lid. Okay, so I don't think I am going to draw a fourth card. I think that that's really what this is talking about, and it's interesting to do it from a yod perspective, you know. But I really think that the 4 is signaling what we need to do to manifest, you know, that we can get all of this in order, but then when it's time to take care of business, we need to have spirit informing that decision. Well, that's interesting. I said yesterday that I was thinking about changing this to an empath focus, simply because, you know, things are so volatile right now, and it's very difficult for empathic folks or people that are psychic or highly sensitive, whatever you want to call yourself. It doesn't really matter. All we're doing when we're accessing that aspect of self is accessing an aspect of self, all right? It is our default state when we're in spirit. We don't, you know, when we're, you know, unfocused energy, we're not, you know, talking like that. We're telepathically communicating. We're you know, empathically communicating, if you will. And so what I wanted to do here, it just seems like we keep coming back to dealing with how upset people are and how difficult some of the energies we're experiencing are to process. I haven't seen the news today, but, you know, the Kurdish people are in a lot of trouble right now. And basically it was caused by the guy in the Oval Office. Any death that's happened, it's on him. And it's very, very difficult to, if you're empathic or sensitive at all, to be able to look at this stuff and not get upset, not take on those emotions and absorb them. And so the other thing that I wanted to do is look at this from an empath perspective. So before I look at the rune, let me do that really quickly. Again, aligning in source presence is extremely important. It's going into your still point, and it's letting go of all of the channels of energy that you've created by focusing on this and that, or interacting with people or whatever. Anytime you do that, even if you just turn your mind and think about something, a channel has been created. If it's bothering you, you have to control it, though. An empath tends to be someone that succumbs to the energies around them. And the problem with that, though, is that you're not using your power accurately or correctly. You control all of it. You control the purchase. No matter how difficult it might be, you can always go within and bring all of your energy to a still point and just sit there and say, no, you can't enter, you can't come in. And there are times when intrusions are so bad that, and vampiric energy is so bad that you can't really stop it. And so you just have to sit there and wait it out. But you go within, you don't interact, you don't engage. If they're not going to leave, if that energy is not going to leave you, if it's like an entity attachment that wants to feed on you at all, because I've had that happen as well. And I can tell you, it's just bizarre when it does. I felt it come in about, not halfway up my spine, maybe a little bit further up. And that's where it was. It happened during a Reiki session with my husband. It happened also in bed over a 3-night period. In fact, I talked about it. Did I talk about it in Empath or in When Vampires Attack? I talked about it in one of those books that I wrote. And I described what happened. And basically, I talked to the energy when it happened in bed at night. After the first time it happened, I finally, regained my curiosity to find out what the heck's going on. It came in again, and I started talking to it, and suddenly it shifted, right? And it was no longer feeding, it was just there. But before, I could feed it, literally drawing energy from me, and it was just the most bizarre thing I've ever felt in my life. And I've had experiences like this all of my life, but this particular one, I feel like it was the same energy coming back. And I don't know why. After that 3 nights, after the first time with my husband during the Reiki session, now it was gone, and he's not come back. But there's a feeling that you get when something is on you and you can't get it off. And when it's energetic, you have to do something. And the best way I know to deal with it is to simply tell it no, but you have to shield. You have to come into your still point, bring whatever shield out you want, visualize whatever shield you want to have, a bubble of light, a Merkaba, whatever you do to, do a suit of armor if that's what you want to visualize yourself in. It doesn't really matter, whatever works for you, but you have to take measures. But the other way that you can do it is before it even gets that far, when you notice that you're starting to become upset or caught up. Clearly yesterday I got caught up. And I forgot to publish I forgot to come back and check again and publish the video. See, I got caught up in all of it. Well, what you have to do in those moments is to regain your focus, come into your still point, see all of the channels of energy that you've created between you and whatever else you're thinking about or watching or engaging with, and see them dissolve, so that you're no longer affected by it. You have to bring yourself back into you, basically. So the rune for today is Ingwas or Ingus. Now this can be drawn a different way, not just as a diamond, but it's known as the seed and the sudden expansion of energy. And so the other way that it can be drawn is two X's on top of one another, one on top of one another, like a DNA strand. So you're talking about the sudden release of creation energy here. And I think that if we're going to align this one with anything, we're going to align it with the 4. Oh, and I started to say, and I don't know if I finished, but if you add the 8 and the 5 together, that's 13, which is also 4. So basically, we have a set of 4 as the foundation point, or the sextile, if you're going to look at this in terms of a yod, an astrological yod. And again, that's an aspect pattern in astrology where you have two planets that are shoring up the third, and the third is the focal point of the energy. It's the focus, essentially, of whatever that aspect is talking about. And in this case, it's about learning to balance our responsibilities with our play, and to come into some kind of balance there. And we've decided to do that by going within and allowing spirit to inform that process with the 4. Added together here, the total numerology of this is going to be 8 again, and we're talking a higher self level of harmony and responsibility and leadership. Think the god Tyr and the rune Tiwaz and the spiritual warrior within when you think about the 8. But it's interesting that we have a 4 as the focal point, and then the 2 cards as the base also equal 4. So that's an interesting synchronicity. And I think with Ingwas here, or Ingus, what you're talking about there is, I'm going to use yesterday's piece of paper and just use the back side of it. What you're basically talking about there is how you're going to manifest your life. And are you going to do what you need to do when you need to do it, but then give yourself time as well to just sort of cut loose and have some fun. Oops, where's that one going? Well, let's see what we have here. We have, oh, okay, so we have Caput Draconis. Do we? Yeah, we do. All right, 2 Draconises in her, 2 Draconi in geomancy. Caput is the head of the dragon, representing the north node of the moon. Cauda Draconis, the evil one, is, and then Caput is about the present moment and the future. But Cauda is about the south node of the moon, or the influence of past lives. But today, geomancers of old, there were several, Carcer, Cauda Draconis, and Rubius, that if you drew those in a reading, the very first rune that you created, because you generally in a reading throw these 4 times, and then from there the rest of the shield chart is created. Go over to my blog, Stepping Aside, at imsteppingaside.com, scroll back to the beginning of the month and you'll see a geomancy reading for the month. And that's one way that geomancy can be performed when you're doing it like a shield chart. You can also do it in an astrological chart. You can correspond them to the houses as well, and do it that way. Agrippa used to do it that way. But I just do it this way. I just use a shield chart, and you can see what that's like and how all that works. But this is Caput Draconis. Ignore that. That was yesterday. You don't want to see that one. Upside down is Kata, or the tail of the dragon. Kind of looks like the tail of the dragon. But there's Caput Draconis, or the head. So basically what we're talking about, it's a moon energy. But basically we're talking about where our life is going and what the focus of it is. Because we get confused over who we are and that we don't understand that we're really source energy focused into form, basically we get confused with, well, we confuse ego with spirit, basically. We'll just say it that way. And then that's when, these cards get messed up, all right? They get out of balance. Maybe we don't see the importance of, I've known people that they get on their motorcycles and they go off and they do their rides and whatnot, but they have kids at home and there's nobody with the kids. And they just go because their focus is on play when it should be on responsibility. Conversely, we all know people who work constantly. And again, they work. They have a family that never sees them. So again, too much responsibility in the wrong place, and they've not allowed for this to happen either. So when you talk about ingus or inguas, what you're talking about is a sudden expansion of energy to manifest something new. And what the yod is basically telling us today, the tarot yod, if you will, what it's telling us is that whatever we do here, the only way that we can do this and do it properly and to keep things in balance is to go within, find our balance, get to that still point, and allow for everything to settle out. And that way, okay, I need to apply myself here today for this, and then I'm going to then come home and I'm going to do some things with the family. I'm going to spend some time talking to the kids about what things were like for them that day. I'm going to talk to my husband, talk to my wife, whatever, whichever one of you can't seem to come home from work. And realistically, sometimes you have to do it because you don't have a choice. Perhaps it's the only way that you can get enough money to sustain your life, right? But somewhere within that, you have to find a place where you can allow for some balance. So this tells me that today maybe we're experiencing some balance in our life, our present life. It's not really past influence necessarily coming in, but yet at the same time, maybe it is one of the Draconis ones. And so even though we're talking about the North Node and about our present moment and our future life and all of that, we still have to have a way to do that in balance, don't we? Now, if this is about, as an empath here, to try to bring that back to that, I'm going to see if I can do this every day. If this is about empathic energy that we're dealing with, balance is a really important thing. We have to go within a lot, especially these days. Depending on how you see what's going on collectively in our country, this can be an extraordinarily difficult time, especially if you're empathic or highly sensitive and you're a survivor. That's the other component of this. A lot of people that are empathic are survivors. Not real sure why that happens, other than it happens by a soul agreement, that you go through all of that, which is a strange thing. It was the one thing I think for me as a survivor that probably healed me the most, was really understanding that whatever I experienced, I did so as a soul agreement prior to coming in. That evidently, whatever you learn from that experience, however you grow from it, I know that seems counterproductive, but when you believe that it was decided beforehand, you gain a little bit of your power back. You start to think, well, how could I do that? Well, likely because my soul was ready to experience it. And as bad as it was, and as triggered as I still can be, if you understand what this is, you can make it work for you instead of succumbing to it, maybe. And for me, anyway, that's what helped. Understanding that there was a soul agreement for this. And no matter what we do here, it's a soul agreement between us and certain members of our soul family to come in and act as our parents, as our relatives, as our friends, as our coworkers, as our neighbors, as a stranger on the street. You never know what that encounter might do for you. You just never know. And so perhaps it's fulfilling something, maybe setting you on a different course. Maybe that's all that person was supposed to be there to do, was just to provide a little bit different thought process to stimulate something else, right? It could be something as simple as that, but it could be something that sends you in a direction that's profound. So we never know. It's why it's so dangerous to see people as the other instead of the other side of self. Because if we're all source energy focused into form, how are they not the other side of self? One could even suggest that it's a physical impossibility for them to be anything other than the other side of self. If we're part of all that is, if we are an expression of all that is, then we're all that is. There's no other. It's a brother. It's a sister. It's family. It's part of the same energetic makeup and structure that each one of us possesses. Differences, sure, but the fundamental nature of who we are is all the same. So I think for today, allow the time for respite. If you're not empathic, and this is just, somebody that, well, we all are empathic, let me say that. But if you don't identify that way, if it doesn't seem to be coming up for you constantly, like it does for me, it's like, no, you're not telling me the truth because I feel that you're not. And empaths do that. You know when someone's lying. You know when they're not being honest with you. You just know that energy changes, folks, that we're all energetic beings. When we begin to lie, when we begin to obfuscate, we get resistive. Our energy changes. It becomes more dense. It's like we're resisting. Our back is up against the wall. We're in a defensive posture. We get more dense. And that's how you know. At least that's how I know. It's like, okay, I'll say to my husband, well, you're nutting up. What's going on? Don't nut up on me here. And what that means is that you're getting really dense. You're not flowing any longer. So what do you not want to tell me? So anyhow, little empath tip. Anyway, I think that's it for today. Again, I'm trying to figure out a way to maybe move this more, at least for the time being, into maybe empath care, if you will. And I think for empaths today, just remember that how you manifest your perceptions, how you manifest your control is really up to you. You do not have to respond to everything that taps you on the shoulder. You don't have to notice everything for very long. You can do it for a split second and then move back. And stay in control. Use the Four of Swords to do that. Use that respite, that going within that inner still point to reach that point and stay safe. In other words, just have your existence be solely about you in that moment and your own energy, and don't allow any other energetic purchase. Go ahead and drop resistance and allow those energetic channels to dissipate and to end. You can always go back to them if you need to, but for that moment, cut them off. Let them dissolve. If you like the expression to cut cords, use that. I don't. I like dissolving channels better, but that's just me. To me, it just seems more gentle. you know, and more respectful, maybe. I don't know. But if you need to cut them, cut them. It's very simple. Take care of yourself and do whatever you have to do that. But the idea is to do like with the do as in the Four of Swords, and to find your inner still point to do that, and to let go of whatever perceptions and responsibilities and whatever other people are trying to put on you. All of the energy, you know, whether it's too focused energy, you could call the Eight of Pentacles too focused energy, and you could call the Five of Wands too, you know, unfocused energy. And so you can see the balance there energetically, from too much focus, which you could view as vampiric, or like, ooh, get away from me, and too much, you know, and this would be like going into Walmart, you know, during Christmas, you know, when there's a million people in there and the energies are so crazy, and that's hard. So if you want to look at this from an empath's perspective, then you need to manifest stillness within. So anyhow, that's it for today. Thank you so much for coming by. Do check out the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. It's called Stepping Aside. If I could have just gotten that, I would have, but it wasn't available, so I had to do it differently. Anyhow, check that out, and come back and click subscribe. And I do this 4 days a week if you haven't come here before, and I do it Monday through Thursday, and I try to do it in the morning. Yesterday was an anomaly, but I try to do this in the morning and get it published in the morning, and at least that way, you know, you have for most of the day, assuming, of course, you live on the West Coast. If you don't, then I don't know. It just is what it is, I guess. Anyhow. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for coming by. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.